carrying brass knuckles, someone you can see had a bit of a knife.
So he fell through and hit a skill tester, and he was in a coma for 3 weeks.
Took a run, jumped up, both hands, bang, straight on the spike. Looked like being crucified. There was blood pouring out of his hands.
That's the fucking hangover from hell, I reckon.
It is. Girl getting hit in the head with a fire stick.
So it's fair to say she got lit that night.
All of a sudden, the roof just caved in. There was a security guard just swinging for his life.
Very, very rare we call the police. It's like last option. Like things have to get pretty out of control for us to call the coppers. Are you able to run us through the process of like having to call the coppers on some sort of situation that had happened at the club? Welcome to episode 2 of Hangover Heroes, where I take out some of Australia's biggest hospitality personalities to figure out where they go to cure those massive hangovers from a big weekend. Today I have a special guest and an old friend of mine, Carlo Paduano, who's worked at multiple venues all over Melbourne and all over Australia. Carlo, how are we today?
Good, good.
Bro, when you had a big weekend, you know it's time to cure it, where do you head?
Only place to go to is Glenny Kebabs.
Let's hit it. Glenny Kebabs, baby, in all its glory. I'd be calling it GK if I live locally. Now we're at Glenny Kebabs. Carlo, why Glenny Kebabs?
We used to always head to Glenny Kebabs after a big night at Lab22. A little backstory, Assad, the owner, absolute legend. He owns Glenny Kebabs. He started it once he left. Perfect place to stop on the way home from a big night. Can I get the HSP, please, with mixed meat?
Large enough.
Yeah, we'll go largest. Can I get 3 of those, please? I'll get garlic sauce on mine. Garlic sauce? Yep.
Of course, yeah.
Yep, we'll just do 3 with garlic sauce.
Exactly what you do, we'll do.
Yep. Yep, all mixed. And can we get a popcorn chicken box as well?
Thank you.
Would have been a few Powerades back in the day.
All right, Carlo, thank you for bringing us to Glenny Kebabs, bro. As I said, big weekend, grand final weekend last weekend. Keen as to have a mad feed, so I'm really keen on knowing your order and seeing what it's all about. But for people that don't know who you are, can you give us a little 10-second rundown of what you've done and what you've sort of been involved in the last sort of 2 decades?
Yeah, so last probably 17 years, started at a club called Lab22. We had a night called Noisy Neighbours, was a DJ, took a bit of a break, came back, linked up with you, took over Empire, running Empire. Since then, we started a new brand called Rockefellers that we co-own, do lots of other events around Australia still, schoolies, touring brands all over the country. Now have a digital agency called 888 Digital, where we do advertising for venues, events, festivals, artists, and look after the hospitality industry.
So no doubt you've worked in the hospitality industry for a long, long time, nightclub especially, like myself, sort of specialised in it. You've had some pretty crazy nights out on the town, right?
Yep.
So you've had a few big nights, no doubt, like every single person in our industry. Can you run us through probably your worst or craziest hangover stories you know of?
The craziest one that always comes to mind isn't actually mine.
Oh, really?
It's 3 friends of mine. So they went to a place called Prince of Wales back in the day on a Saturday night.
One Love.
It was like the One Love era, yeah, that's it. And I'm not sure where we were, but we were at home and basically got a message. We didn't hear from them for hours. It was probably, 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. We get a call and our mate said that they're on the way to Sydney. And I guess, long story sort of short, my mates went to leave the club. One of them was the driver. The other 2 guys jumped in the back of the car and both passed out pretty quickly. So by the time they got out of the car park, I don't know why, but he decided to drive them to Sydney. So they were out the whole way. He was filming himself while he's driving, doing little vlogs and videos along the way. And we got a call in the morning and they reckon they were in Sydney. And then then we saw the photos, we saw the videos. So basically they just woke up and didn't believe him, as you would. And then they walk outside of this car park and the Opera House is there and the Harbour Bridge and pretty wild.
That's the fucking hangover from hell, I reckon.
It is.
And the worst part would be the 8-hour drive back home.
Yes, I think they stayed that night and came back eventually Monday or Tuesday or something like that. But
that's a solid hangover yarn.
A pretty wild weekend, I think, yeah.
So working in clubs, everyone has a story. Like every single person that works in the industry has a crazy story of the time that they're working in clubs.
Yep.
Is there one you can share with us?
Yeah, I think the craziest one would have been, I used to DJ at a venue called Motel. It was Motel Rooftop Saturdays. I was playing in the side room and all of a sudden we just heard a lot of commotion and the lights came on. And when the lights came on, I could just sort of see out to the main room and there was a security guard just swinging for his life. He was sort of falling back down the stairs. And there was just a big group of muzzers, we'd call them back then, throwing punches at him. Anyway, we just kind of hid in that room because it was like probably one of the most chaotic fights I've ever seen. And there was a lot of people involved. Kind of managed to eventually get our way out of the club and just across the road to the car park. And everyone evacuated the club. All the security guards were lined up at the front of the venue, kind of protecting the door. And then there was probably maybe 15 of these muzzers lined up in the middle of the road, like ready to go in, screaming and yelling. I don't know what would have happened. Thankfully, nothing bad really did happen. I think a few guards got injured, but police sirens came on, like perfect timing, and they just split. They were gone.
So it fully shut down the club?
Yeah, I don't believe it opened up again that night. Everyone just sort of went home, and that was enough to sort of call it a night.
Wow. Who was running it at that time?
I believe it was Joe Molinaro, Motel Rooftop Saturdays it was called. So yeah, the other probably crazy one that comes to mind was at Empire, where we obviously worked. And we had all of a sudden the roof just caved in because the guy managed to climb up into the bowling alley next door, tunneled his way through the roof, and then all of a sudden just collapsed, I don't know, 4 meters high, straight through all the roofing to the floor.
Main dance floor?
Main dance floor, straight on the ground, got up, took off, and we weren't able to find him. We patched the roof up and the night kept going, but that was a interesting one.
How did he get away?
We couldn't, in the rubble falling down of the footage, we just couldn't make out who it was. So once he got on the ground, back then, you know, the club was doing 800-900 people, so he just disappeared into a sea of people. And
it's funny because I remember a similar story at Empire when I was running before you took over from me, or for me. And it was like, I reckon there was 1,400 people in the club.
Yep.
And we were sitting there drinking on the side of the bar, which people would remember where we used to hang out.
Yep.
And someone's feet dropped straight to the aircon.
Could have been the same guy.
Wiggling like little worms up like a rain shower.
Yep.
And everyone was like 10 of us trying to grab this guy, trying to put him down. And then his legs just disappeared,
Yep.
went back into the aircon, and we spent, I reckon it was like 10 or 15 minutes trying to get this guy. No, longer, like an hour. Every single guard around the corner did like a full recon mission, and we never ever found him. So he got away too. And another one, if you remember, do you remember the story about the guy who actually fell through, who didn't get through successfully? So there was a guy who didn't get through successfully. He tried to do the same thing, went through the bowling alley, and went to tunnel through the wall, but he actually fell through. So he fell through and hit a skill tester, and he was in a coma for 3 weeks. So he was proper fucked up, almost died. So that's another crazy roof Empire story.
Yeah.
I know was there another story that I remember you telling me about when I wasn't there, about a guy trying to get over the smokers area?
Yeah, so we used to have people jumping the smokers all the time, and to put a stop to it, we got bird spikes, put bird spikes all the way around. And I don't know, these guys probably must have done it all the time because they, and we had scan tech obviously back then, so they probably weren't allowed in. One guy was sort of standing against the wall, ready to catch his mate to boost him up. He took a run, jumped up, both hands, bang, straight on the spikes. Fell into the smokers. Guards got there pretty quickly. They took him out, and I remember standing at the front of the club and they were walking him off. As they were walking him off, there was just like, looked like being crucified. There was just blood pouring out of his hands. Just a disaster.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so he learned.
Yeah, he definitely learned that day. So you've been running shows for ages, obviously. You've done 17 you just mentioned before. Is there a favourite show that you've ran, like a really big show that you've ran?
A really big show. There's probably a few that come to mind. Some of the first shows that I ran when I first sort of started out, it was a brand called Mothership. We did, I think, like 2,000 people at a venue called Track. That was actually the first big event I ever ran. That was a pretty, special moment for me. After that, we also did a couple of Mothership events at a place called Room 680 back in the day. It's probably one of my favourite venues of all time. And much the same, 2,500 people, like silly numbers compared to today. And then probably in the more recent times was the second Dark Circus that we did at Royal Melbourne Hotel. Just remember going up on the stage and seeing, not realising that it was actually as busy as what it was because you're so busy running around the club and talking to people and checking on problems and different things. And yeah, I just remember going on the stage and just seeing full groove, performers going, everyone having fun, and it's always a cool feeling when you are the reason putting together an event and everyone comes together and has a great time. Like, that's the special moment I get out of doing events.
It's like a high, huh?
It is. It's like, that's the peak of the night for me.
I love it like the day after when I'm like reflecting on it and I literally feel off my head.
Yep.
Like, I'm that pumped from it. I'm like, this is fucking mad. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this for a job.
Yep. Yep.
I know for a fact that we've done probably hundreds if not thousands of events. Is there a moment, like a big fuck up moment of an event you've ran where you had your hands in your head just thinking, oh shit?
Big fuck up moment. Geez, first one that comes to mind would be a girl getting hit in the head with a fire stick at Dark Circus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the performer just was real close to the front of the stage, and I don't think he actually dropped it, but I think she was just a bit too close. Hit her in the head. She was pretty drunk. She was pretty happy to keep going. Gave her some drink cards, and thankfully there was no injuries and everything was all good.
So it's fair to say she got lit that night?
Yeah, literally.
Did a haircut fall?
No, thankfully. No, I just hit her, I think, sort of in the forehead.
Is that better? I don't know if that's better or not.
Yeah, I don't know. The hair can grow back, I guess.
Final question, because our food's sitting right over there, I can smell it, ready to cure our fucking Monday blues.
Yep.
If you could wind back time, right? So two things, a festival and a club night.
Yep.
If you could wind back time and go to one club night or one festival again in, I guess, Melbourne, or it can be anywhere in the world,
Yep.
what would it be?
The first one that I would say for a nightclub is Famous. I think it was at QBH back in the day. I went there one time, which was their final night ever. I remember it somehow. Don't remember a lot from back then, but it was epic. I think Adam Bartas was playing. Yeah, it was just awesome venue. I only ever heard good stories, but I unfortunately only got to go there one time.
Yeah. Festival?
Festival would have to be Soundwave.
Yeah.
Never got to go to Soundwave. Had tickets once, but I couldn't make it that time. So yeah, that'd be the two for me.
All right, our food's here. Let's chomp in and let's see how this rates on the hangover scale. Okay, when you were working in my venue, there was something that I asked you to do that I never quite pick. And basically, at one point, you were effectively venue managing / promotion manager of my venue.
Yep.
And because of that, you lived in this like grey zone where you were running the nightclub and had to be like a host and deal with people. But at the same time, you were dealing with like cops and licensing and shit like that.
Yep.
Something that we normally keep separate because a lot of promoters are piss wrecks basically.
Yep.
In that situation, like I've talked about this before, but I've always said like it's very, very rare we call the police. It's like last option. Like things have to get pretty out of control for us to call the coppers. Are you able to run us through the process of like having to call the coppers on some sort of situation that had happened at the club?
Yeah, definitely. There was a few times we had to call the police. Usually it's when fights get a little bit out of control or the guards are outnumbered generally. Even then, usually it's always sort of been handled, but there were a few times that I just sort of gut feeling, I guess, and just felt like things were going to get a lot worse if we didn't have police come and get involved. There was probably one time where we had a young guy that was kicked out. He was in a bit of an incident. Not even really sure if it was his fault or not, but generally back then, people involved in a fight, everyone's removed from the venue. Get rid of one group first, then get rid of the next group so they don't, kick off in the car park. All of a sudden, like 3, 4, 5 cars turned up, and this little kid that we just really thought wasn't going to be an issue at all had 25 people turn up, like in trackies and pajamas and hoodies, guys carrying brass knuckles, someone you can see had a bit of a knife or something behind him as well, hiding sort of down near the front of the car park. We kind of leveraged, well, if this kicks off, you're not going to be allowed to go out again. But it didn't work. He kept trying to talk to them, and they weren't really listening to him. So that, this other group was just completely outnumbered. The guards were outnumbered, so it was very chaotic. We had a lot of people inside, so we couldn't have guards out the front the whole time while this is happening, because otherwise if something happens inside, which has happened before, the guards will go out the front for a fight, then there's another fight inside, then there's another one outdoors, and then all of a sudden, it can just kick off. Yeah, made the call to the police. They usually ask if there is weapons or anything like that. There has been times where we've called the police and they've gotten into a brawl in the car park and they've pulled out the pepper spray, they've gotten people on the ground and done what they've had to do as well. But yeah, generally, if there's mass amounts of people or weapons involved, it's better to just call the police.
And that's like the only time they really don't give you a drama afterwards, right?
Well, that's it, especially when the people that were the big problem weren't actually from the club as well, so it was kind of outside interference. Thankfully, nothing too serious ever really happened. Yeah.
So why Glenny Kebabs, man? Like, why Glenny Kebabs when you're hungover? Why do you come here to like cure those Monday blues?
So Glenny Kebabs, I guess going Assad when he was a guard at one of the venues I was running, Lab22. Yeah, I just always had fond memories of chatting to him, and he was a good guy, and I do recall he was running some events after he finished doing that, and doing quite well, and then he started Glenny Kebabs. So, just I guess out of support, but also it is awesome food, just always an easy spot to stop on the way back home from the city.
And local's a big thing for you, supporting locals, right?
Always, yeah. I mean, most of, I guess, aside from the one city club that I did have, everything's always been local. Yeah, I just, local's important, supporting local people, businesses.
Thanks, Carlo, for bringing me down today to Glenny Kebabs to show me what you eat when you've had a big weekend. Guys, what am I going to give this as a rating? Basically, as you can see, I haven't finished this, and it's not because it wasn't yum, it was fucking delicious. I literally am defeated, so put a fork in it, I am done. Quality-wise, meat was delicious, chips were crunchy, sauces were elite. You can see the value for money is elite. I couldn't finish it. I don't think I've ever been defeated by a HSP. Unfortunately, this is the one that got me. If you're into cars, no doubt you know about Glenny Kebabs, but if you're not, you should still come down here. Glenny Kebab has a really rich history in cars and meats and all this sort of stuff. They've got culture and they combined it with food and they've killed it, and they've got heaps of stores all over Victoria now. What would I give this as a hangover score? It's going to be a 9. HSP, no doubt, is one of the most elite feeds to eat to soak up that extra additional T155 because you're over-consumed on a Saturday. The only thing I would say that kind of dropped it down to a 9 was because Carlo made me our chicken, and I'm not a chicken man, I'm a lamb man every single day of the week. So it's nothing on Glenny Kebabs, it's all on Carlo. Next time I come here, I'm gonna be consuming double lamb. Even though I'm not gonna get through it, I'm gonna smack it. So thanks to Glenny Kebabs for letting us come down and film today. And guys, if you haven't checked it out, come down and check it out because you are in for a fucking treat. If you like this Hangover Heroes series, please like, follow, subscribe, and leave a comment below.